moving forward from your first angel investing, you mentioned that like you thought that you would be maybe like doing angel investing much more in the future rather than sooner. So what was that thought? What kind of belief did you hold that kind of predicted you participating into investing more like further on your career versus early on and as an angel?
Well, I had a very like preconceived notion of like the steps of my career, and it was sort of like, be, early on in a startup, help that company scale up, have an exit, make a bunch of money, then be a founder myself, scale that company up, have another great exit, make even more money, right? And then once you don't have to worry about money anymore, then you can start being an investor. That's obviously a very unlikely path to actually happen. So I started to think about how would I do this a little bit more methodically, at this point in my career. And I think one of the eye-opening moments was realizing that, when you join an angel group, you can pool much smaller amounts of money. So you don't need to be writing, $100,000 checks. You don't even need to be writing, $25,000 checks. You can get started at 5 or 10,000. And that's even the best way to start because, there's a lot less, skin in the game, I guess. You're getting started with a reasonable amount of money. Where if you lose it, because of course, many startups fail, and if you lose all of that, there's the potential of getting wiped out. But the key thing is having a broad portfolio, putting 5 or 10 or whatever your threshold is in many companies, and so that's why starting with the smaller amounts lets you spread what could have been my idea of one investment really into 10 or 20 investments. And I mean, in fact, I'm thinking of a more or less like arbitrary 7-year timeline, just because I'm thinking that by the time I'm 50, I would like to be able to have my own fund. But I'm thinking that the investments I do now, I want to see those returns in 3 to 5 to 6 years, and I want to by 7 years from now be able to like demonstrate what my portfolio returns are. And of course, I hope I'll get better along the way. But I do want to see some of those returns coming back.
Coming back to when you were just getting started in angel investing, were you already living here, or was this back in States, or?
Yeah, so this was back in San Francisco, Silicon Valley, when I first started, but that was the sort of non-professional approach. I moved to Barcelona partly because I do think that this is a really exciting startup ecosystem, but still in the very early stages of that ecosystem. Silicon Valley obviously is extremely mature, potentially even too mature to be able to compete for good deal flow as a small-time angel investor. A lot of people complain that there's no good deals anymore. But I would say that Europe is I think very much up and coming and promising in terms of like the startup ecosystems. Barcelona is very exciting just because so many people from all over Europe and all over the world move here. So it's an exciting time to be here in general, but I also think it's a great time for angel investing here.
Did you have any kind of challenges, or what kind of things do you need as an angel investor that perhaps you didn't have access to or didn't quite figure out yet here? Tell us a little bit more about your pre-SIA journey.
Yeah, well, I mean, knowing the community, building a big network is very important. You can't do it on your own. Well, you can do it on your own, but that's not the advised approach, really. So meeting other people who are startup founders, meeting people who are in the investment world, people who are also angel investors, that network is very, very important. And so really it was, only over the course of maybe 6 months or a year that I started to meet other people who were angel investing, who were startup founders, meeting people like you. And being able to become part of that community and just learn more from them. Yeah.
So what were you looking for? So that was primarily looking for network when you came across to us, or like what kind of value did you see in SIA and the Transatlantic Angel Conference program when you were just getting to know the program or considering joining?
Good question. Let me think about how best to answer that. So I really was, trying to build a network. It wasn't very specific to trying to find an angel network. I mean, there are other angel networks out there, of course. But once I started to learn more about SIA, about the Startup Investor Accelerator, I saw that it ticked a lot of the boxes of what I was looking for. It is, a very large community that has 15 years of history in the US, and so it's run by people who are very smart and know what they're doing. So getting that guidance was a key piece of it. Being able to tap into that existing investor community was a very important thing. But I also love a couple things about the program. Like one is the learn by doing approach. So you're diving in, you're getting to evaluate 70 or 80 different startups. Doing all the process of meeting them repeatedly, hearing their pitches, getting into due diligence. All of those things are very key, and I think that methodology is very effective. But the other thing I love about it, which is great for us as investors, but not necessarily the friendliest environment for startups, is that it's kind of like this battle royale pitch competition. And so you see first 70 startups pitch, you hear them pitch, you get to vote and narrow it down to 24. And what's remarkable is that because really even at that level of 24 startups out of 75, you're dealing with the top 1/3. Like they're all legitimate, very promising startups. They all have a good shot at success, but you get to compare them against each other, and I would say that maybe there's a bit of a art and a science to comparing apples to oranges when you're looking at like a med tech against like an insure tech or something like that. But it is great. It is great to be able to compare startups against each other and see, well, do I want to put my money into this one or this one?